Songyu grew up in a happy family and naturally wanted to replicate that happiness. Call it traditional if you will, but it was what she wanted. She also understood that marriage wasn't a necessity in life, but the mutual agreement to forego the certificate was different from her boyfriend Tan Mo's deliberate avoidance. However, after becoming close friends and confidants with Shu Yan, her thoughts gradually began to change. It's said that Songyu and Shu Yan have been quite close lately. Despite the 20-year age gap, these two women, who seemed to have no common ground, became fast friends at first sight. They frequently met up, eating together, working out, and meeting friends. It seemed as if Shu Yan was intentionally drawing Songyu into her life and social circle. Who is Shu Yan? A high-ranking executive at a multinational company, wealthy and attractive. She usually gave off a cold and mysterious impression but was exceptionally considerate towards Songyu. Various rumors abounded, causing their colleagues to gossip and joke sourly in private. Is she trying to take Songyu along to make money and soar together? It's said that Shu Yan is already 50 and still unmarried and childless. Could they be? But Songyu has a boyfriend. At this point, everyone would wink and cover their mouths, showing an expression that could only be understood but not explained. In short, the friendship and interactions between Songyu and Shu Yan provided plenty of fodder for gossip. While the outrageous and astonishing rumors from those around them didn't bother Songyu, her boyfriend Tan Mo seemed to be quite perturbed. For a while, Tan Mo tried everything he could to persuade and entice Songyu to stop meeting Shu Yan. At first, his tactics worked, but soon they failed. After a period of overt and covert awkwardness between them, Songyu proposed breaking up with Tan Mo. She had a hard time articulating the real reason for the breakup. When Tan Mo had just returned home, he brought her a cup of milk tea, even inserting the straw for her. But when he handed it to her, she refused to take it, blurting out, "I'm moving out." Startled, Tan Mo looked up, his eyes full of questions. Songyu turned her face away, like a poor actor reciting lines, "I don't like you anymore." He surprisingly followed up with, "What don't you like?" So she pressed on stubbornly, "I don't like anything about you." Tan Mo's tone calmed significantly, and he brought the milk tea to her lips. "I don't believe that reason at all." Songyu closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and asked, "Then what do you think the reason is?" To be honest, even at this moment, she still harbored some hope for him. However, as usual, he showed an evasive attitude. He straightened up, rested his elbows on his knees, rubbed his hands, then his face, and finally spoke with difficulty. "Can you stop seeing Shu Yan? I really strongly dislike her." The small glimmer of hope in Songyu's eyes now seemed to ignite into a fire. She stood up abruptly, her arms sweeping across the coffee table, sending the cup of milk tea crashing to the floor. The brown liquid splattered across the light gray tiles, like murky, repressed tears. Grabbing her already packed suitcase, she dragged it towards the door. The wheels screeched against the floor, making a loud, frantic noise. Her voice trembled. "Who are you to control me? What right do you have? What are you to me?" But Tan Mo wouldn't let her go. He tightly grasped her wrist, holding on as firmly as he clenched his teeth when afraid to reveal his thoughts. Songyu glared up at him, her chest heaving, truly resembling a cat with its fur standing on end. Yes, a cat, clingy, proud, yet cold and independent, capable of running away if it felt uneasy. Tan Mo completely gave in. Holding her wrist, he pulled her into his arms, one arm circling her, the other stroking her hair, his voice soft and weak. "All right, don't be angry. I'll marry you. Please be good." Instantly, Songyu felt offended, as if all the blood in her body rushed to her head. She yelled and started stomping on his feet, kicking him indiscriminately. Tan Mo let go of her but held onto the suitcase handle. When Songyu tried to grab it, he didn't let go, somewhat shamelessly pulling the suitcase behind him. He didn't want her to leave. It was as if taking away those belongings would free her from any attachments, making her never look back. He spoke urgently. "Tomorrow, we'll go see the apartments at Mantingfang, all right? Or anywhere else you like, it's fine." Mantingfang was a newly developed neighborhood nearby, beautifully landscaped and exorbitantly priced. Songyu's colleague had recently bought a marital home there, and she had mentioned it before. Songyu's breathing was rapid, her chest heaving. Tan Emo knew she was crying, but she turned her head, not letting him see her face. At that moment, Tan Emo felt as if even the walls of iron in his heart were melting, but unfortunately, his words still failed to convey his feelings properly. "I'll pay, and the property will be in your name. Is that okay?" "I don't need it." Songyu's anger surged within her chest, making it hard to contain. She didn't want to say too much, but in the end, she couldn't hold back. Songyu, come from a good family, and I work hard. While I may not be stunningly beautiful, at least I'm healthy and presentable. I don't lack money or love. But ever since I met you, I've lost my drive and ambition. After work, I just run to you. I've neglected my friends and family. Being here with you feels like being in a poppy field, making me happy and addicted, but now I'm sober and calm. I'm tired, I've had enough, and I don't want to degrade myself anymore. I thought of myself as your legitimate girlfriend, but others see me as a mistress. I want to openly discuss marriage and meet the parents. I just want a normal, mundane life. People have different aspirations and can't force each other to conform. Are you satisfied with this answer? What am I saying? Songyu closed her eyes, feeling a buzzing in her head and a slight tingling in her fingertips. Forget it, who cares? It's the truth, even if it isn't. Tan Montag listend, dumbfounded. Songyu's words were loud and clear, like a string of firecrackers going off by his ear, leaving him stunned and pained. Songyu was a bit dazed herself. Without another glance at the suitcase, she turned and walked out, opening the door. The numbers on the elevator display seemed far from their floor. She pressed the button, but it felt like she couldn't wait. Panicking, she turned and ran into the stairwell. Tan Emo followed her out, shouting loudly, "Songyu." Songyu clattered down the stairs, hearing his voice echoing in the stairwell, reverberating and gradually fading away. He didn't chase her any further. Soon, she burst out of the building and into the scorching July sun. 4 years ago, they first met at a friend's gathering. It was late summer transitioning into early autumn. Tan Emo had draped his light jacket over the back of his chair. Whether it was due to the low air conditioning temperature or the girl beside him being intentionally coquettish, she softly exclaimed, "It's so cold." Seeing Tan Emo unmoved, the girl directly asked, "Can I borrow your jacket?" Tan Emo smiled and refused straightforwardly, "Sorry." The girl, likely unaccustomed to rejection, seemed more determined to engage him in conversation. Songyu sat diagonally across from them. Her initial attention was naturally due to his good looks, but his clean, upright demeanor was clearly a result of long-term cultivation. The gathering was crowded and noisy, with chaotic yet boring topics. Songyu enjoyed eating and drinking while observing the interactions. Some men, after a few drinks, practically wagged their tails in front of the women. In contrast, Tan Emo remained quiet, often giving brief responses to the girl's frequent attempts at conversation. Perhaps it was this air of aloofness that made him seem like a challenge to conquer. The girl beside Tan Emo likely thought so, too, her exaggerated coquettishness almost making Songyu laugh. When Tan Emo glanced up, he coincidentally caught the hint of amusement in her eyes. The connection between people is strange. Tan Mo's face warmed, and his eyes seemed magnetized, glancing up more frequently. Despite this, their relationship progressed slowly. Neither was particularly forward, letting their feelings ferment internally before any affection or joy seeped out through their eyes or lips. It wasn't until one day when their friends arranged to eat at a private restaurant. The place was a bit far, and the 7 of them agreed to take 2 cars. In the end, the other 5 crowded into one car, leaving just the 2 of them standing there. It was clear everyone was creating an opportunity for them. Songyu reached for the back door of Tan Mo's car. Everyone knew his front passenger seat was usually occupied by a laptop and files, never offered to any girl. Tan Mo, however, had already opened the front passenger door. When Songyu pulled the back door handle, he swiftly tossed his laptop and files onto the back seat. He gently tugged her arm, signaling her to sit in the front. Song-yu got in gracefully, but both of them felt a surge of emotions, causing a brief, unsettling silence in the car. After a while, Song-yu, searching for something to say, asked, "Why don't you let anyone sit in the front? Do you have a girlfriend?" Tan-mo's lips curved upwards. "Aren't you sitting there now?" This answer made Song-yu blush. She continued with a random question, "No girlfriend. Then, do you have a boyfriend?" Tan-mo glanced at her, his smile broadening, and called her name with a playful tone, "Song-yu." Song-yu looked at his profile and suddenly realized her gaze was a bit too greedy. She quickly looked away, smiling. "Got it. You want to be single forever." "That wouldn't be so bad," he replied smoothly, but then immediately contradicted himself. "Who knows? Maybe I'll meet someone who makes me want to do anything for her." Much later, Song-yu blamed herself. Back then, he had clearly hinted at his reluctance towards marriage and children. But she, lost in infatuation, only heard the latter half of his statement, full of wholeheartedness and true affection. That day, on that very road, passing by a field of tulips, Tan-mo slowed down the car and asked her, "Shall we take some photos?" Before Song-yu could respond, he had already parked and turned to her with an unexpected question, "Will you be my girlfriend?" He looked at her, his eyes holding the brilliance of stars freshly washed by night rain. "I'm so nervous I could die. Please answer me quickly," he pleaded. After that day, Song-yu felt like she truly understood Tan-mo. She described him as being like the night and day of early autumn, half cold, half hot. And she loved both his coldness and his heat. He was intoxicated by her admiration and praise, reciprocating fervently, as if eager to offer up all the warmth he had accumulated over the years. Thus, they had known each other for 4 years, dated for more than 3, and lived together for 2. When it came to marriage, Tan-mo never brought it up. Song-yu understood that nothing is ever 100% secure or stable, and often, even a piece of paper could be meaningless. She admitted that she was deeply attached to Tan-mo in many aspects. Tan-mo was a year older than her, good-looking, with a great personality. His job was not only stable but also progressing at an impressive pace, as if he had divine assistance. His romantic history was clean, with his last girlfriend dating back to high school. He was generous with money, whether it was gifts, red envelopes, or daily expenses. He managed everything thoughtfully and meticulously. Although Song-yu's family was well off and her salary was sufficient for her needs, her parents frequently sent her money, fearing their daughter might be deceived by the sugar-coated bullets of material indulgence. Aside from never mentioning the word marriage, Tan-mo lived very much like a devoted, considerate, and outstanding husband. This was something Song-yu's parents also couldn't understand. They even secretly investigated Tan-mo's family background without telling her but found no issues. Tan-mo's family lived in a neighboring city. His father was a doctor, his mother a teacher, and he had an older brother, Shuisheng, who took their father's surname, while Tan-mo took their mother's. On the surface, they seemed like a harmonious, friendly family. But this only deepened the concerns and confusion of Song-yu's parents. The two young people had a stable relationship and a solid economic foundation. Even if marriage wasn't immediately on the table, shouldn't he at least visit the in-laws? This is a basic show of sincerity and respect, isn't it? With many relatives and friends, this topic often came up. Song-yu's reaction shifted from initial indifference to later silence, now tinged with frustration. When it became too much, she would retort with a smile, "Don't you have anything else to worry about? Why meddle so much?" This response left her parents feeling both relieved and embarrassed, their internal urgency and hope growing like summer grass. Their daughter was already 29. These emotions became a tight band around Song-yu's head, causing headaches and annoyance as the reminders grew more frequent. Occasionally, Song-yu would subtly hint at this to Tan-mo. After all, even in matters of proposing, it's important to gauge the other party's feelings before proceeding. She would casually mention trivial things, like a classmate's wedding date, a colleague buying a marital home, or a pregnant coworker's new food cravings. Despite her light-hearted tone, Tan Mo once remarked, "Having a child means continuous suffering." Hearing this, as she leaned against him, Song Yu turned to look at him. "Suffering is certain, but so is happiness. Do you not plan on having children in the future?" Tan Mo didn't answer. His arm, supporting her back, tightened, the veins on his forearm and hand becoming more pronounced. Feeling disappointed, Song Yu stopped talking, her fingers absent-mindedly tracing the patterns on his skin. Suddenly, Tan Mo pulled her into a tight embrace. Between breaths, he murmured, "I'll treat you like my child, okay?" He didn't wait for her reply before sealing her lips with a kiss. After similar instances occurred twice more, Song Yu stopped bringing up marriage or children. However, the more she avoided the topic, the more it nagged at her. Song Yu couldn't understand. She grew up in a happy family and naturally wanted to recreate that happiness. Call it traditional, but it was what she desired. Although, as a member of the younger generation, she understood that marriage wasn't a necessity. The difference between a mutual agreement to forego a marriage certificate and one party deliberately avoiding the topic was significant. With this conflicting emotion hidden inside her, she hoped he would initiate a heartfelt conversation. Unfortunately, as time went on, her patience wore thin. It was like an item in her shopping cart. Left unattended for too long, she no longer wanted it. About a year ago, Song Yu went to a client company to discuss cooperation, and that was the first time she met Juyen. When Juyen entered the meeting room, her subordinates seemed surprised to see her, quickly standing up to offer her the main seat. She waved her hand dismissively and pulled out a chair, sitting down casually. "Carry on." Song Yu's train of thought was momentarily interrupted, but she didn't get too nervous. After all, that's life. Observing others' clever strategies or their awkward mistakes. I look at people, and people look at me, and life just passes like that. Juyen didn't speak much throughout the meeting. Even when her subordinates looked at her with questioning eyes, she remained silent. Several times, Song Yu's gaze met Juyen's, one filled with thought and desire, the other calm and unruffled. For a moment, Song Yu felt a peculiar sensation, as if she had returned to an elementary school classroom, with a teacher in the back row watching attentively. The children couldn't help but sit up straight and try their best to present themselves. Juyen was in her early 50s, but looked like she was in her 40s. Light makeup, well-maintained figure and skin, wearing a dark blue blouse that was understated yet elegant. She held a pen, occasionally jotting down notes, and when deep in thought, she would twirl the pen between her fingers. After work, Song Yu excitedly told Tan Mo about Juyen, her words full of admiration. Then, she remembered some gossip she had heard and couldn't resist sharing. "She really doesn't talk much. No wonder people say she's aloof and mysterious. She's so excellent and beautiful, truly. Even now, she looks stunning. She must have many suitors. Why hasn't she ever married? They also say she's cold and not close to her family." Enough. Tan Mo's brows furrowed slightly, then quickly relaxed. He was using chopsticks to remove a bit of fat from the braised ribs before placing it in Song Yu's bowl. "Eat up before it gets cold," he said. Song Yu always claimed to have an easy-to-gain weight body but couldn't resist Tan Mo's well-balanced, delicious dinners, making her weight loss efforts quite tough. She pouted playfully at him. "You're sabotaging me again." Tan Mo smiled, his voice gentle. "I'm not sabotaging you, I love you." The air conditioner was probably set a bit high, causing Song Yu's face to flush, her eyes carrying a lazy, tipsy look, and she forgot the previous topic. For Tan Mo, love and were never taboo words, but marriage was. Later, Juyen also became a name that brought him frustration. It was as if Juyen were a man and his rival in love. When Song Yu returned from meeting Juyen, Tan Mo would alternate between gentle negotiation and sullen anger, unable to articulate his reasons, only repeating plaintively, "Could you spend less time with her? Can you spend more time with me if you have it?" Once, Song Yu, half-jokingly, asked, "Why should I spend time with you? You're not my husband." This term, which she used naturally in affectionate moments, she now stubbornly refused to acknowledge. Pulling her hand out of his grasp, Song-yu insisted, "You're only a husband after marriage. You're just a boyfriend." Tan and Mo fell silent immediately. Song-yu understood that if Zhu Yan hadn't extended the olive branch first, the two of them probably wouldn't have become friends. On a professional level, Zhu Yan's pointers seemed brief but were extremely effective, benefiting Song-yu immensely. For young people, having an experienced, respected, and influential mentor is a rare and valuable opportunity. Song-yu and Zhu Yan got along harmoniously and enjoyed each other's company. Despite the 20-year age gap, it didn't hinder their rapport. Perhaps because they were both women, they often found themselves on the same wavelength, understanding each other's viewpoints and attitudes almost instantly. In short, Song-yu couldn't distance herself from Zhu Yan, her mentor and friend, just because of Tan Mo's interference. The night Song-yu broke up with Tan and Mo unilaterally, she drove around her building a couple of times before deciding to leave. She didn't know how to face her parents' inquiries, which would undoubtedly be followed by anger and nagging. She had had enough of being caught between her parents and Tan and Mo over the past 2 years. Finding a new place wasn't something that could be done in an instant, so Song-yu decided to stay at a hotel for the time being. On the way, she received a call from Zhu Yan. Zhu Yan laughed. "Why stay at a hotel? I happen to have an empty apartment. I'll send you the address." Feeling hesitant, Song-yu refused, but Zhu Yan insisted, "Come over. I was just thinking about having a drink with you. I'll be waiting." When Song-yu arrived, she found Zhu Yan already waiting downstairs. Zhu Yan's apartment was small, with a simple decor. The walls, floors, and furniture all bore signs of being lived in. She would have a cleaning service come by occasionally, so the place always felt warm and tidy. Zhu Yan kicked off her high heels, tossed her bag aside, and relaxed lazily into the sofa, even pulling her legs up. With a long sigh, Zhu Yan said, "I've lived here for 10 years. This apartment has witnessed most of my pain and weakness. So, whenever I'm feeling down, I still come here. Thinking about the hardest times makes current difficulties seem trivial." As she spoke, she patted the spot next to her, indicating for Song-yu to sit beside her. "Maybe my pain doesn't seem like much to you now, but I feel like I've lost all face. Why do I want to marry a man so badly?" Song-yu looked at Zhu Yan's well-maintained face and smiled bitterly. "Teach me how to live as freely and decisively as you do." "Freely and decisively? Me?" Zhu Yan laughed, shaking her head with a sigh. She slowly said, "If I told you I have a son and our relationship is terrible, would you still think so?" "I would, because you're brave." Song-yu's surprise lasted only a moment. She candidly said, "Actually, I've thought about it too, but I didn't dare." Plus. Song-yu paused, then said self-deprecatingly, "He's too cautious. I don't know how to approach it." "Isn't that good? It leaves room for both of you to maneuver until you're both ready." Zhu Yan observed Song-yu's expression carefully and added gently, "I'm not questioning your abilities or denying your relationship. You can choose the life you want. I'm just sharing my own experience to tell you that keeping the father and abandoning the son is easier said than done. We women have to bear so much." "I understand, thank you." Touched by her words, Song-yu reached out to hold her hand. "So, do you regret it?" "It's hard to say. It's complicated." Zhu Yan lowered her gaze, speaking softly. "He's an excellent child, but I haven't given him any companionship. He hasn't even called me mom. Aside from money, I probably only brought him pain." Zhu Yan didn't continue and instead picked up her phone. "Hungry? Let's order something to eat." Song-yu also picked up her phone, replying to work messages while joking, "Look at this, a corporate slave can't even afford to turn off her phone. Who knows when colleagues, bosses, or clients might need something?" Zhu Yan laughed. "Many problems can't be solved by turning off your phone. It's better to face the issues you can't avoid." "So true." Song-yu, still looking at her phone, spoke to Zhu Yan. I really like you. I hope that in a few years, I can be like you." "Don't." Zhu Yan looked up, her gaze passing over Song Yu's face with a hint of tears. "Child, don't replicate my past. Don't become me." That night, perhaps due to her emotions, Song Yu became slightly tipsy after only a few sips of wine. If she had maintained a bit of formality while chatting with Zhu Yan before, now she treated her entirely like a close confidant. She shared sweet details of her romantic relationship, as well as the quarrels, her pain and reluctance, her grievances and longings. Zhu Yan listened quietly, gazing at the crimson wine in her glass. After a long while, she said, "You've done well. If I could turn back time, I'd prefer to be someone like you, clear-headed and calm, both rational and emotional, able to love and let go." Song Yu, feeling dizzy, retorted, "I'm almost obsessed with getting married. How can I be clear-headed and calm? Those are just other people's descriptions of you. They say I'm unmarried and childless, right? The unmarried part is true, but the childless part is false. I guess I was very clever, hiding it well." Zhu Yan laughed self-deprecatingly, taking a large gulp of wine before continuing. "I regret it deeply. I should have kept him by my side. But that was 30 years ago. I was afraid of people's judgment, afraid his father would take him away, and I truly couldn't handle raising a child while earning a living. I was so naive back then, thinking I could make up for it once I made money. But I was wrong." Zhu Yan shook her head repeatedly, tears streaming down her face. "I was really wrong. The past is gone forever." Song Yu leaned in to hug her. "Have you told him about this pain and struggle?" "No." He looks at me with hostility, like I'm his mortal enemy. We rarely see each other or stay in touch. Zhu Yan patted Song Yu's back lightly, her voice soft. "Even though he won't listen to me, being able to tell you makes me feel relieved." They continued to share their innermost thoughts for a long time. Eventually, Song Yu became completely drunk, clinging tightly to Zhu Yan's arm, refusing to let go. Zhu Yan, both understanding and compassionate, sighed wistfully, "If only you were my daughter." She hadn't expected Song Yu to lift her head quickly and respond bluntly, "I don't want you as my mom. Even though I admire you and enjoy talking to you, thank goodness you're not my mom." Zhu Yan was momentarily stunned before bursting into laughter. "Will there come a day when you feel awkward and regretful about what you just said?" Zhu Yan's remark was worth pondering, and her smiling gaze was intriguing. But Song Yu, being drunk, couldn't grasp the deeper meaning, because she hadn't said anything wrong. After all, her own mother was the best. Although her mother wasn't as successful in her career as Zhu Yan, didn't make as much money, and didn't look as young as Zhu Yan. She often nagged and couldn't understand everything, but her mother's love was real. Just a turn of her head, and she would be there. If she called Mom, her mother would come running, bringing a warmth and security that felt like diving into sun-warmed cotton, like smelling the faint scent of milk. Zhu Yan helped her up, tears in her eyes but laughter in her voice, teasing her. "All right, my dear daughter, time to go to sleep." The next day was Friday. When Song Yu woke up, she saw an A4 paper on the bedside table with 2 lines written in Zhu Yan's handwriting. "I've taken a leave for you. You have only 3 days to handle your relationship issues, no more." It wouldn't take that long anyway. Not long after, Tianmo's call came again. By the 3rd call, Song Yu answered, sounding as casual as if they were good friends. "It's work hours. What are you doing?" Tianmo exhaled and softly retorted, "You're not at work yourself, are you?" "How do you know I'm not at work?" "I'm standing in the hallway of your office right now." Perhaps this was the difference between night and day. Daylight brought clarity, making it possible for newly broken-up couples to still have a conversation. Tianmo asked cautiously, "Can we meet?" "No." Song Yu answered briskly, her voice lowering, "I'm fine. You need to be fine too. Bye." Returning to bed, Song Yu lay down for a while longer, feeling sad. Despite taking a day off, she forced herself to check the various WeChat work groups and replied to a few messages. By noon, Song Yu got up and washed up briefly. She remembered the suitcase she left at Tianmo's place. Checking the time and estimating that he wouldn't be home, she decided to sneak over to retrieve it. As she approached the door, Uncertain if Tan Mo was home, Songyu instinctively walked quietly. Swiping her card to open the door, she hadn't stepped inside when she saw a pair of burgundy high heels at the entrance. Inside, a man and a woman were talking. She heard a familiar male voice, speaking in a tone of grievance and frustration. "If you weren't going to care about me, you should have stayed out of it completely. Why interfere now? All the pain I've endured from childhood was inflicted by those I thought were closest to me. See, now even Songyu has left me." Songyu stood still for a moment, then quietly closed the door and left. This time, Songyu really moved into a hotel. She needed a quiet environment to think things through. Once she had a clear direction and plan, the matter didn't seem so difficult. The next day at noon, she arranged to have lunch with Shuyan. In the quiet private room, before Songyu could speak, Shuyan asked directly, "You know everything, don't you?" Seeing Songyu's troubled expression, as if she didn't know what to say, Shuyan laughed. "When you moved out of my place, I understood. You're too smart to think I'd reveal a lifetime of secrets after just a few drinks. I knew you'd figure it out sooner or later." Songyu raised her eyes and answered honestly, "My imagination isn't that rich, and my abilities are limited. All I found out was that you and Tanmo's father are cousins on the household registration." Zhu Yan's gaze suddenly turned sharp and cold, like she had instantly withdrawn all warmth. She leaned forward, looking closely into Songyu's eyes. "Yes, Tan Mo is the son I told you about. I told you, leaving the father and keeping the son is never easy. I know, once you understand the relationship between him and me, you'll definitely question my intentions. Understand it however you want. I never expected him to call me mom, nor did I ever think we'd end up as a loving mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. I believe you, and I am very grateful to you." Songyu interrupted her, looking directly into her eyes with a clear gaze. "Would you like to tell me your story? Only what you want to share. If possible, I'd also like to help bridge the gap between you and your son." Zhu Yan's emotions calmed down, and she summarized her past in a few sentences: an unplanned pregnancy, a quarrel with her boyfriend, thinking it was a Cold War while he had already moved on. To conceal her son's origins, she had him adopted by her cousin and his wife, even taking their last name. She worked tirelessly, ensuring financial stability but failing miserably on an emotional level, ending up alienated from everyone. Songyu hesitated before asking, "Can I ask? What about his father?" Zhu Yan gave her a glance. "Understand what you need to, and don't ask too many questions. It might embarrass your future mother-in-law." "Oh." Songyu couldn't help but laugh awkwardly. "You're quite the double standard. When we were drinking, I poured my heart out and probably shared more than I even remember. Am I shameless? I just treated it like enjoying a good story. As I get older, I prefer sweet things." Zhu Yan laughed sincerely. "I'm very happy that you're the one with him. He's become much happier over the past 2 years." "He's always been great," Songyu said, then covered her face. "Can you stop? This feels so weird. No wonder you didn't want me to call you sister. No wonder you were willing to teach and help me. No wonder Tan Mo was unhappy about our relationship." Zhu Yan's eyes filled with tears as she smiled and reached for Songyu's hand. Thank you for understanding me." Remembering their previous conversations, Songyu couldn't help but blush with embarrassment, feeling like a child. "Even so, it's hard not to feel like you were using me." Zhu Yan laughed again. "Expand your perspective, you can use me too." What more could Songyu say? He can be stubborn and willful. No matter how well his adoptive parents treated him, it's different from being with his biological parents. Do you understand? Especially since his brother is only 2 years older than him. Zhu Yan continued honestly. He has insecurities and distrusts marriage and family because of his upbringing. I'm not trying to pressure you, just letting you know his unspoken thoughts. I want him to let go of his issues and for you to see him clearly. What happens next is up to you both. Reflecting on her own warm and smooth life of over 20 years, Songyu couldn't imagine the hardships and grievances Tan Mo had experienced. She impulsively stood up. "I'm leaving." Zhu Yan grabbed her wrist. "Where are you going?" Songyu shook off her hand and raised her head. What else? To clean up your mess. Zhu blurted out. Calm down, have lunch first, Songyu. Songyu thought the woman in front of her was increasingly like a mother, and with this thought, she laughed strangely. Zhu, as if reading her mind, glared at her. 3 months passed, and although Songyu and Tan Mo didn't reconcile as a couple, they were able to get along as friends. Sometimes they would have dinner together at night, then each would return to their own place. They kept in touch every day, exchanging bits and pieces of conversation on WeChat and over the phone. Tan Mo still minded Songyu's relationship with Zhu, unable to resist asking, what did Zhu say to you again? He wasn't sure how much Songyu knew about his origins. Songyu refused to tell him, and Zhu was the same. As time went by, he became certain that both of them were important to him, and he was important to them as well. So, he began to try opening up a bit about his childhood to Songyu, mentioning not understanding why his mother only liked to hold his older brother when he was 7, or not understanding why his father made him talk to unfamiliar aunts on the phone when he was 9, or why the aunt gave his father so much money when he was 12. He even talked about that one night when he was 12, overhearing his parents arguing and mentioning his name, calling him that illegitimate child. Pouring his heart out made him feel relieved and relaxed, while Songyu sat quietly beside him. He couldn't help but squeeze her hand tightly and sometimes even leaned in to hug her, craving the warmth and comfort she provided. Songyu gave him tremendous warmth and security, allowing his confessions to become more honest and fluid. One day, he said, because you love me, you think everything about me is good. In front of you, I'm carefree and naive. You can't see the darkness and brokenness inside me, and you're not guarded against the possible downsides of marriage. Because I love you, I'm willing to give you the best parts of myself, but I'm a person of unknown origin. I don't even know who my own father is, or who I should bow to at our wedding. If your parents knew these things, would they object? If your relatives knew, would they look down on you? Why worry so much? No wonder your CPU isn't working well, Songyu pretended to say lightly, reaching out to touch his hair, feeling like her emotions were too obvious. So she withdrew her hand and patted his head instead. Since you're afraid of so many things, you shouldn't have pursued me in the first place. But I couldn't help it. Tenemo took her hand. Why are you treating me like a cute puppy? Suddenly, Songyu threw herself into his arms, hugging him tightly. She said, I want a puppy. Songyu cried and asked him, I want a puppy. Will you buy me one? He shook his head firmly. After all, he knew that she didn't really want a puppy. From then on, Tan Mo often went to Songyu's place, staying late into the night. Day by day, he slowly moved his things to her place, like creeping ivy gradually taking over her territory, as if this would allow him to stay by her side without any worries. He slept on the sofa in the first half of the night, and then next to her in the second half. He just wanted to be with her, close and uninterrupted, which was related to love, but seemed unrelated to desire. When he woke up in the morning, he shamelessly whispered to her, just holding hands and hugging your waist makes me very happy and satisfied. After all, undressing each other is just a matter of time, sooner or later. Songyu didn't want to talk, closing her eyes as if she were in a dream, reaching out for another hug. Until one night, Tan Mo went to Songyu's place again, but couldn't open the door. He called her, and she said she had moved out. With loud music blaring in the background, Tan Mo held the phone away from his ear and asked, Where are you? Songyu didn't answer directly, but laughed mischievously and said, Why do you care? What's our relationship anyway? Tan Mo chuckled helplessly and said, Call me if you need anything, and go to bed early if you don't. Good night. At that moment, Songyu was actually with Zhu. Zhu is going abroad. As for when she'll be back, or if she'll come back at all, she just smiles and says, Who knows? We'll see. Don't count on me coming back to help you with the kids. Songyu glances at her and isn't polite with her words. I'm not as crazy as you. That's for the best. Zhu shrugs it off, adding, Here's another bitter pill for you. You can hire someone to help take care of the children, but your heart still won't be free. And Even if you get married, don't always hold on to the idea of holding hands with that person until death. Song-yu feels warm inside, but her words come out with a hint of disdain. Do you even realize what you're saying? Is that what your status should dictate? Zhu-Yan can't help but laugh. Who knows? She's just too enjoying Song-yu's approval. It's strange. Ever since the secret was revealed, the two of them seem to be even more tacitly connected. In traditional Chinese families, how many men are absent, but it's the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law who live together, accompanying each other in life and raising children, living in trivial warmth and chaos. Thinking about this, Zhu-Yan feels even more amused, but deliberately speaks with seriousness. Although I've taught you some things and introduced you to some people, people come and go. You don't need to thank me, just keep going in the future. Song-yu refuses to indulge her in sentimentality. Don't be like this. The future is long. We'll meet again. Zhu-Yan gives her a dissatisfied look. I haven't even boarded the plane yet. Song-yu finally can't hold back her laughter. To be honest, she's been thinking a lot lately. She doesn't want to end up like her mother, but she also doesn't want to be like Zhu-Yan. But life, who can live without grievances, pain, sadness, and confusion? At this moment, Zhu-Yan still has her own worries and conflicts. Eventually, she falls into the stereotype and says, Song-yu, take care of him for me. Song-yu blinks, of course. But I want to be his wife, not his mother. I misspoke. Zhu-Yan laughs again, waving her hand dismissively. Forget it. You two take care of each other. Song-yu links arms with her and says softly but confidently, don't worry, we'll be fine. And we both value our relationship a lot. Even if we can't be lovers, we won't resent each other and become enemies. Zhu-Yan going abroad was somewhat unexpected for Tan Mo. After hesitating for a while, he asked Song-yu, is she okay physically? Been watching too many dramas? Song-yu scolded him with a glance, but then thought for a moment, if something were wrong with her, would you regret it? Regret being mean to her, making her sad, right? Tan Mo understood what she meant. He said, as long as she's okay. We can't be too close anyway. That was already good enough. Song-yu looked at him with satisfaction. Tan Mo felt a bit embarrassed under her gaze, so he casually grabbed a cushion to cover her face and complained, how did Zhu-Yan manage to win you over? This arrogant woman always assumes she knows what I want, as if I would like it. There was a hint of playfulness in Song-yu's voice that had been absent for a long time. Aren't you the same? Always assuming you know what I want. Do you think I really want it? Unable to argue with her, what could he do? Just let it be. Tan Mo patted the sofa underneath him, then looked up at the ceiling and asked, seemingly casually, is this apartment you rented expensive? Song-yu exaggeratedly replied, it's ridiculously expensive. Such a waste of money. Why don't you cancel it? Tan Mo seemed to casually steer the conversation in a certain direction. You've moved several times recently. Aren't you tired of it? Smiling, Song-yu looked at him. It's a bit annoying indeed. But now that you've asked, I'm not annoyed at all. Tan Mo moved closer to her. He turned to face her, just looking at her as if brewing something, but he didn't speak for a long time. Song-yu was quicker than him. Her fingers slid from the corner of his lips to his Adam's apple, then grabbed his collar and tilted her face up. Wait! He actually spoke up, moving his neck back slightly, creating some distance between them. He said, let's get married, Song-yu. I'm ready, I'm serious. Song-yu covered his mouth and spoke softly. I don't want to hear this right now. Okay, got it. Tan Mo smiled and asked softly in her ear, how's the soundproofing in this ridiculously expensive apartment of yours? 2 months later, on an auspicious day, suitable for marriage. However, Tan Mo was stood up at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau. His emotions went from anxious and impatient to annoyed and incredulous, then to disappointment and finally to calm and relaxed, taking him a full 3 hours. Later, he took a picture of the Civil Affairs Bureau entrance and sent it to Song-yu on WeChat, asking her, what about tomorrow? Are you coming? Song-yu replied immediately, extremely frustrating, depends on my mood. Tan Mo was speechless. Come on, sis. I have to go to work. I can't just wait outside for one. 2, 3 days, can I?" After waiting for a while, Songyu still hadn't replied. He sat on the steps outside the Civil Affairs Bureau, his arm resting on his bent leg, occasionally glancing at his phone. He looked up at the distant sky and clouds. It was nearly noon. The sun was bright and dazzling, but truly radiant and bright. He wasn't sure if she would come today, or maybe she was standing in some corner watching him. It didn't matter. He was patient. He knew how to cherish. Yes, in this mundane world, people are just clinging to the beauty they desire in their hearts, whether it's sweet as honey or poisonous as arsenic. But that didn't matter either. There will always be someone on the same wavelength as you.